13-year-old Elara stood frozen on the gleaming stage. The holographic spotlight shimmered against her brown skin, intensifying as 1,000 eyes turned to her. She watched, paralyzed, as Sterling Blackwood, the visionary CEO of a global tech empire and Silicon Valley's most revered futurist, tore her Innovation Fair certificate in two on a live global broadcast. The crisp sound of rending cardstock pierced the stunned silence. "This," Blackwood declared, his practiced smile never faltering as he held the severed pieces for the holographic cameras, "is the consequence of diluting merit with sentiment." A collective gasp rippled through the affluent audience. Somewhere in the hushed crowd, a woman murmured, "How dreadful." The judges, all luminaries of the tech world, shifted in their augmented reality-enhanced chairs. No one intervened. Tears welled in Elara's eyes, hot and sharp, but she willed them back. Her hands, slender and steady despite the seismic shock, clenched into tight fists at her sides. On a global stage, in front of an audience of millions, Sterling Blackwood had just branded her a fraud. What Sterling Blackwood didn't comprehend was that he had just declared war on precisely the wrong teenager. The low-energy fluorescent lights of the Booker T. Washington Magnet School hummed overhead as Elara hunched over her quantum physics exam. She had finished 20 minutes early, as usual. Her stylus tapped a silent, rhythmic beat against the smart desk as she watched her classmates grapple with concepts she had mastered months ago. "Time's up," announced Mr. Davison. "Please submit your work." As the digital files were uploaded, Mr. Davison's icon pinged Elara's screen. "Elara, a word after class." When the room had emptied, Mr. Davison pulled up her exam results on his datapad. "Another perfect score," he said with a sigh that was part admiration, part frustration. "You're aware there are vocational programs for students who require alternative pathways." "I don't need an alternative pathway," Elara stated plainly. "I need more challenging work." "That's not what I was implying. Given your circumstances." Mr. Davison's gaze flickered to Elara's frayed datapad case, the synth leather of her shoes worn thin. "Perhaps we should manage expectations." "You mean lower them," Elara corrected, her voice flat. It was a sentiment she'd heard countless times. Outside, Liam from the Advanced Quantum Mechanics seminar was waiting. "You belong in our class," he said in a low voice. "It's ridiculous you're not." "Ms. Albright says my focus should be on practical skills," Elara recited, perfectly mimicking the guidance counselor's patronizing tone. "That's insane," Liam retorted. "You run circles around all of us." Elara just shrugged. "Tell that to Albright." Her Detroit neighborhood greeted her with its familiar, melancholic beauty. Mr. Henderson tended to his rooftop hydroponic farm. The Rodriguez twins piloted their hoverboards over cracked pavement, the corner bodega where Mrs. Kim would extend a line of credit when their universal basic income ran low. Inside their cramped apartment, there was only silence. Her Nona Elena wouldn't be home from her shift at the automated factory until after 2 a.m. The quiet hum of Elara's prototype device was her only welcome, the sole sound in their still home. She gently lifted it from her worn backpack. The diagnostic tool was compact, but immensely powerful, constructed from scavenged parts from the city's tech graveyards and programmed with proprietary algorithms she'd developed by studying leaked corporate research papers. She had named it Cassandra, and had imbued its user interface with her grandmother's stern but loving personality. "Hello, Cassandra," she murmured, activating it. "Good afternoon, Elara," Cassandra's synthesized voice responded. Your grandmother's biometric data showed elevated blood pressure at 07:15 this morning. I recommend a low-sodium meal. Elara nodded. Her grandmother's chronic respiratory illness, a legacy of the city's industrial past, had been the catalyst for Cassandra's invention, a system that could forecast medical crises before they occurred. If only she'd had this when her father had suffered his fatal heart attack 5 years earlier. The smart fridge displayed a message in her grandmother's cursive. Soy stew in the cooler. Take your nutrient supplements. Love you, mija. Elara swallowed the nutrient paste and packed her bag. The municipal archives closed at 10 p.m., 5 precious hours to work. At the Detroit Central Archives, she settled into her preferred terminal in a quiet corner. Dr. Thorne, the imposing, scholarly archivist, gave a nod of acknowledgement. The monographs you requested on neural network architecture have arrived, she said, sliding 3 dense data chips across the counter. Thank you, Elara whispered, her eyes lighting up. Hours dissolved as Elara was lost in the elegant logic of code, refining her creation, teaching it to learn, to anticipate, to protect. On her screen, a complex web of neural pathways grew and adapted. Cassandra was becoming more sophisticated by the hour. Her comlink buzzed. It was a text from her Nona. On my break, did you eat? Yes, Elara typed back. A small lie to prevent a big worry. The application for the Global Young Innovators Summit lay half-finished on the desk beside her. Grand prize, a $1 million grant and a fellowship at Blackwood Dynamics. They needed that money. The automated eviction notice had arrived last week, their second this year. The archives closed. Walking through the neon-lit, rain-slicked streets, Elara clutched her device, her mind alight with what-ifs. The summit was her one shot, a real chance to rewrite their future. No more 16-hour shifts for Nona. No more counselors guiding her toward a sensible career. No more pretending to be anything less than she was. The following morning, Elara showed her grandmother the vibrant, intricate diagrams of Cassandra's neural networks. Look at this beautiful art you've created, Nona Elena said, proudly affixing the printout to the wall beside the flickering eviction notice. My girl is such a talented artist. Elara didn't correct her. She couldn't possibly understand. No one did. The summit was meant to change all of that, until Sterling Blackwood decided to rewrite the script. 3 weeks before the catastrophe, Elara had vibrated with nervous energy as she submitted her application to the Global Young Innovators Summit. Live global broadcast, judging by Nobel laureates, and Sterling Blackwood himself, the founder of Blackwood Dynamics, the man poised to reshape global healthcare with predictive AI. The acceptance notification arrived on a Saturday. Nona Elena had wept, hugging Elara with a force that took her breath away. They see you, mija, her grandmother had whispered. They finally see you. The convention center was a dazzling cathedral of innovation. Gleaming displays filled the cavernous hall. Fusion-powered drones, nanobot assemblers, atmospheric water generators. In the midst of this spectacle, Elara stood by her modest table. Cassandra's sleek, minimalist form rested on a plain gray cloth. Feeling the pressure? Asked the boy at the next display, his algae-based carbon capture system bubbling quietly. Elara nodded, her gaze fixed on Sterling Blackwood as he glided through the room, a retinue of holographic cameras floating silently behind him. He seemed larger than life, his bespoke suit woven from smart fabric that likely cost more than their apartment. Don't sweat it, the boy said. It's all just for the broadcast. They've already picked the winner. Who? He nodded toward an opulent display where a polished young man was demonstrating his project to a group of smiling investors. Councilman Davenport's son. You know, politics. Ilara's heart sank. But no, her project was superior. Cassandra was revolutionary. They had to see that. When Blackwood finally arrived at her station, Ilara straightened her spine. "Good afternoon, Mr. Blackwood. I'm Ilara Moreno." His eyes barely grazed her display. "And what have we here?" "Cassandra is a predictive AI that forecasts major medical events before they happen," she explained, the words tumbling out in a rush. "It analyzes subtle fluctuations in biometric data and behavioral patterns, too." "You've developed a predictive healthcare AI," Blackwood interrupted, one perfectly sculpted eyebrow raised. The cameras moved in closer. "Yes, sir. In trials, it's already shown 92% accuracy in predicting." "And from where did you acquire the base code for this?" His tone shifted, acquiring a sharp, accusatory edge. "I wrote it myself. I taught myself quantum coding and adaptive learning models using the public archives and—" Blackwood laughed, a short, dismissive sound that sliced through her explanation. "That's highly improbable." He turned, addressing the cameras directly. "My dear young lady, this level of algorithmic complexity is a challenge for our top research scientists, let alone—" He gestured vaguely in her direction, at her simple clothes, at her very presence. "I can demonstrate its capability," Ilara insisted, reaching for Cassandra. "I have the test data and I've seen all I need to see." Blackwood picked up her project certificate, the document that named her a finalist. "This summit is about integrity and originality. We have a duty to reject plagiarism." And then, before a global audience of millions, he tore the certificate in half. "This," he declared, his smile unwavering, "is the consequence of diluting merit with sentiment." The ripping sound echoed in the sudden silence. A sharp edge of the torn cardstock sliced her finger as she instinctively reached for the falling pieces. A thin line of crimson bloomed against her brown skin. The judges said nothing. The other young innovators just stared. The holographic cameras captured every microsecond of her humiliation. "We will, of course, find the true innovator," Blackwood promised the audience with a conspiratorial wink. As the cameras whirred and clicked, a cold, hard clarity crystallized in Ilara's mind. She wasn't just going to prove him wrong. She would force him to admit it to the entire world. What would you have done in Ilara's shoes? Is public silence in the face of such humiliation a sign of weakness or a calculated strength? "He called you a charlatan on a global broadcast," Julia Rossi said, her digital recorder glowing softly. The ambitious young journalist from the Detroit Free Press had intercepted Ilara outside school the morning after the summit. "Do you have a statement?" Ilara kept walking. "No comment." "People are discussing this, Ilara. The clip has over 5 million shares." 5 million people had witnessed her public disgrace. Wonderful. "The public needs to hear your perspective," Julia persisted, keeping pace with her. "The public doesn't care about my perspective," Ilara retorted. "They saw their show. Underdog from the wrong side of town gets put in her place. End of story." Julia stopped. "That's not the story I intend to write." Ilara paused, really looking at the journalist for the first time. "What story do you want?" "The truth," Julia said, holding out a business card. "When you're ready to tell it." At the archives that evening, Ilara sat slumped at her usual terminal, the acrid taste of a cheap energy drink on her tongue as she battled exhaustion. She had been awake all night, delving into sterling Blackwood, digging for anything. "You look like you've been wrestling with a data demon," Dr. Thorne commented, appearing with a small protein bar. "Eat." "Not hungry," Ilara mumbled, her focus locked on the screen. "Eat anyway." Dr. Thorne's voice was gentle but firm. She glanced at Ilara's monitor. "Blackwood Dynamics' new Civic Health Initiative?" Ilara nodded, taking a grudging bite. "They're rolling it out next quarter. Revolutionizing public health through predictive AI. Sound familiar?" Dr. Thorne's eyes narrowed. "Suspiciously so." "They stole my concept," Ilara whispered, "but there's no way to prove it." "Yet," Dr. Thorne corrected. She hesitated, then her fingers flew across her terminal keyboard, bypassing the archive's public-facing security with practiced ease. Subscription-only research databases bloomed on the screen, the kind requiring top-tier university credentials. "You're more than just an archivist," Ilara realized. Dr. Thorne offered a faint smile. "I hold a doctorate in algorithmic ethics from Caltech. Immigration and academia are not always compatible." "Why are you doing this for me?" "Because genius should be nurtured, not dismissed based on its packaging." She pointed to the screen. "Now let's see what Mr. Blackwood is truly constructing." Hours later, Ilara's head was swimming with information. Blackwood's Civic Health Initiative, promoted as a public good, concealed a devastating flaw. It was designed to maximize profit by systematically denying services, employing algorithms that disproportionately impacted the poor and marginalized. "They've hard-coded bias into the system," Dr. Thorne explained, her voice tight with anger. "Zip codes, income levels, even last names are used as proxies for race and socioeconomic status. And no one objects? The people who matter call it market efficiency." That night, working at her small desk as her Nona slept, Ilara unearthed the smoking gun. Buried deep within Blackwood's technical plans, part of a leaked internal document Dr. Thorne had procured, was a section of code nearly identical to Cassandra's core predictive algorithm. They hadn't just appropriated her concept, they had stolen her actual creation. But how? Her Summit application had required detailed technical specifications. Someone on the vetting committee must have leaked it. Ilara's hands trembled as she pulled up details on the upcoming Apex Innovation Gala, a more exclusive event where Blackwood would unveil his company's new healthcare system as the keynote speaker. "Perfect," she whispered. The application process was daunting, demanding authenticated academic endorsements and legal guardian verification. Insurmountable barriers, or they would have been before Sterling Blackwood had made it personal. 2 digitally forged recommendation letters and 1 cleverly fabricated guardianship consent form later, Ilara Moreno was reborn as Lara Vance, a prodigy from an elite private tech academy in California. The acceptance email arrived the same day as the final eviction notice. She now had 2 weeks to salvage both of their futures. Dr. Thorne chose to help Ilara, violating library protocols and potentially risking her own quiet life. When is it justifiable to break rules to fight a greater injustice? Have you ever faced a similar, albeit smaller, choice? "Late on the rent again?" Nona Elena sighed, holding the glowing red eviction letter. "I'll try for another overtime shift." "No," Ilara said with quiet finality. "I have a plan." Her grandmother looked at her skeptically. "What kind of plan covers 4 months of back rent?" "A winning one," Ilara promised. "I just need you to trust me." While her Nona worked grueling double shifts, Ilara worked with feverish intensity, transforming Cassandra. The device had to do more than just predict. It had to expose. She built in new modules to dissect Blackwood's algorithm, pinpoint its biases, and vividly demonstrate its discriminatory outcomes. Dr. Thorne provided invaluable assistance, feeding her restricted research papers and high-level technical knowledge that went far beyond the public archives. One afternoon, she connected Alara with Dr. Anya Sharma via a secure video call. Dr. Sharma was on the ethics board at Blackwood Dynamics until 6 months ago, Dr. Thorne explained. The woman on the screen, sharp and intense, nodded grimly. I was terminated for questioning their efficiency models. The civic health initiative they're launching, it's engineered to deny care under the guise of objectivity. Can you prove it? Alara asked. I have internal documentation, Dr. Sharma confirmed. But I have no platform. Blackwood's legal team is an army. I might have a platform, Alara said slowly. A live broadcast event with Blackwood himself on stage. Dr. Sharma's eyes widened. The Apex Innovation Gala? Alara nodded. I'm a finalist. That's impossible. Blackwood would never allow. He isn't aware of who I really am. Yet. Understanding washed over Dr. Sharma's face. You're the girl from the Innovation Fair, the one he humiliated. Yes, Alara said, and I'm about to repay the favor. The hospital corridor had a sterile smell of ozone and fear. Alara sat, stiff and cold, in the waiting area, her school datapad lying forgotten beside her. Through the glass of room 61B, she watched Nona Elena, her frail body connected to a web of monitors whose rhythmic beeps marked an urgent countdown in Alara's head. Acute respiratory distress triggered by environmental particulates, the doctor had explained, her words kind but direct. She needs rest, specialized medication, and an invasive treatment we'd like to schedule for next week. Our city-sponsored insurance, Alara had started to ask. Has declined coverage for the treatment, the doctor finished, her frustration palpable. The new automated system flagged it as non-essential. I've lodged an appeal, but algorithmic decisions are rarely overturned, especially not Blackwood's. On the datapad, balanced on her knees, Alara pulled up the denial letter from the Civic Health Initiative. The language was cold, impersonal. Buried in the jargon was the raw truth. Treatment denied based on comprehensive risk-reward analysis. Translation, Nona Elena was not a worthwhile investment. Her comlink chimed. A message from Dr. Thorne. Found something critical. Come when you can. Can't leave Nona, she texted back. This can't wait. Trust me. In the back room of the archives, Dr. Thorne locked the door. Blackwood's system isn't just biased, she said, her voice strained. It's intentionally discriminatory. She projected files onto the wall. Internal communications, design specs, testing protocols. Look at these decision frameworks. Alara studied the tangled logic, a sickening understanding dawning. They're specifically designed to filter out people from certain districts. Yes, Dr. Thorne's face was hard as stone. And they've stolen your predictive code to make their discrimination more efficient. Your algorithm was created to save lives. They're using it to decide which lives are profitable enough to be saved. Where did you get these files? Dr. Thorne hesitated. Dr. Sharma still has friends on the inside. This is enough to expose them, Alara declared. Not quite. We need definitive proof that the system is actively and intentionally discriminating, not just statistical correlations that can be explained away. I can prove it, Alara said. Cassandra can run real-time simulations showing precisely how their decisions target specific demographics. Then we have to move faster. The gala is in 10 days. Her comlink buzzed again. A notification from the hospital. Nona's awake. I have to go. There's something else, Dr. Thorne said. I need to tell you why this is so important to me. Later, Elara promised, already moving toward the door. She was striding through the hospital lobby when a familiar voice cut through the noise. Elara Moreno? Julia Rossi, her press credentials visible, approached with an air of purpose. Not a good time, Elara said, heading for the elevators. I know what you're planning, Julia said quietly. The Apex Gala, except you're registered as Lara Vance. Elara froze. How did you— I'm a journalist. I connect dots. Julia's expression softened. And I care about stories of injustice. Are you going to out me? That depends. What's the endgame? The elevator doors opened. Elara stepped in, Julia right behind her. Blackwood stole my work. He's using it to deny medical care to people like my grandmother. I'm going to prove it. On stage? In front of holographic cameras? Yes. Julia looked at her, a mix of awe and concern in her eyes. That's either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever heard. It's necessary, Elara corrected. The elevator stopped. Julia handed Elara her card again. Call me before you do anything. A story this explosive needs to be handled correctly. Is that a threat? It's an offer of a megaphone. There's a difference. In Nona Elena's room, the monitors kept up their steady, anxious rhythm. Her grandmother's eyes fluttered open. There's my girl, she rasped, her voice thin. How are you feeling? Elara took her hand, its skin cool and papery. Like I got hit by a hover truck, she managed a weak smile. The doctor mentioned some complicated procedure. We'll find a way, Elara promised. The insurance already refused. We can't pay for it. Don't you worry about that now. Just get some rest. After her Nona drifted off to sleep, Elara worked from the uncomfortable hospital chair, Cassandra humming softly on her lap. The device was learning at an exponential rate, analyzing millions of healthcare decisions, uncovering irrefutable patterns of systemic discrimination. Her comlink buzzed with a new email. Gala Logistics. All underage participants required a legal guardian to be physically present. An impossible hurdle. Nona couldn't leave the hospital, and she had no one else. Another buzz. A text from an anonymous source. We need a word. Your registration has triggered security alerts. Apex Gala Security. A cold panic constricted her chest. They were onto her. They had figured out who she was. A third notification. An email from Sterling Blackwood's personal assistant requesting a pre-gala interview with Lara Vance to discuss her revolutionary healthcare application. They were watching her, laying a trap. Or even worse, they planned to steal her improved work, too. With 10 days left and her cover about to be blown, Elara made the most audacious decision of her young life. She was going to hack Sterling Blackwood's own network. Facing systemic failure, Elara decides to break the law. Is this act of cyber-vigilantism justified when legal channels have failed her and her grandmother's life is on the line? Where is the line between a freedom fighter and a criminal? Absolutely not, Julia stated, her voice echoing in the deserted hospital cafeteria. Hacking Blackwood Dynamics isn't just a bad idea. It's a series of federal offenses. So is intellectual property theft, Elara shot back. So is engineering an algorithm to let people die based on their socioeconomic status. One of those seems worse to me. And one of them is far easier to prosecute, Julia countered, sitting across from her. There are other ways to bring this to light. Name one that works in 10 days. Julia leaned forward. You have hard evidence they stole your code? Yes. And I have simulations proving their system is discriminatory. Cassandra is finalizing them now. Julia's fingers tapped a rapid rhythm on the table. I have a green light from my editor at the Free Press. We can run a front-page exposé, which Blackwood's lawyers will discredit and bury within a news cycle, Elara said dismissively. We need something public, undeniable, and immediate. The gala, Julia conceded. But you can't get in without a guardian, and security is already onto you. That's where I need your help, Elara said. Not to hack their servers, but to get me onto that stage. The whisper of Elara's sneakers was the only sound on the polished floors of the Detroit Advanced Research Institute. Each step was a drumbeat matching her racing heart as she followed Dr. Sharma through secure, sterile corridors. Dr. Thorne speaks very highly of you, Dr. Sharma said, swiping an access card at a heavy door. That carries a great deal of weight. The lab was a symphony of humming servers and glowing screens displaying neural networks far more complex than Elara's own, or so they appeared. This is the true heart of Blackwood's civic health system, Dr. Sharma explained. Predictive analytics designed to identify high-risk, low-return patients for what they call proactive management. Proactive management, meaning denial of coverage, Dr. Sharma clarified. Recommendations against costly treatments. Substitution of cheaper, less effective medications. These algorithms don't just predict outcomes, they engineer them. And they're using my code to do it more efficiently. Elara's voice was like ice. I have to get into that gala. The Guardian and security flag are serious problems, Dr. Sharma noted. I may have a workaround for both, Julia announced, stepping into the lab. Dr. Sharma, your research on coded bias is revolutionary. The Free Press would like to run a major feature on you, giving you an on-the-record platform to critique Blackwood's system. Dr. Sharma tensed. My non-disclosure agreement only covers their proprietary tech, not your ethical critiques of its application, Julia finished. I had my paper's legal team review it. And the Guardian problem? Elara asked. Julia smiled, a triumphant flash. Meet your new temporary legal guardian. She handed Elara a datapad displaying expertly forged guardianship documents, naming Dr. Eris Thorne. Legal in every digital detail, if not in reality. This is highly illegal, Dr. Sharma began. Necessary, Elara and Julia said in unison. Back at the archives, Dr. Thorne scrutinized the forged documents. These are exceptionally well made. Where did you acquire them? It's better that you don't know, Julia replied. The question is, will you do it? Dr. Thorne's expression became clouded with memory. When my son was 15, he developed a rare autoimmune disorder. Blackwood's precursor to this current system classified his required treatment as experimental. The insurance denied coverage. What happened? Elara asked, her voice barely a whisper. We could not afford the treatment out of pocket. Dr. Thorne's voice was preternaturally steady, but her hands were trembling slightly. He passed away 2 months later. The room was filled with a heavy silence. I am so sorry, Elara murmured. Sterling Blackwood did not personally sign the denial, Dr. Thorne said, meeting her eyes. But his algorithm decided my son's life was not a sound investment. She squared her shoulders. So yes, it will be my honor to be your guardian at his gala. Working through the night, Elara augmented Cassandra's capabilities. The device was now a Trojan horse, loaded with irrefutable proof of Blackwood's malfeasance and something extra, a hidden back door into the gala's main presentation system. You're certain this will work? Dr. Sharma asked, reviewing the code. Blackwood's team is brilliant but arrogant, Elara explained. Their firewalls are built to repel outside attacks. They will never suspect the threat is already on the stage with them. And if you're caught, then at least we went down swinging. As the day of the gala arrived, their plan was set. Julia would coordinate press coverage. Dr. Sharma would stand by to provide expert corroboration. Dr. Thorne would play the part of her guardian, and Cassandra would be the star witness. The night before the gala, Elara visited Nona Elena, who was showing slight improvement but remained weak. "Where is this big event you have to go to tomorrow?" her grandmother asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "A special enrichment program at the archives," Elara lied. "Dr. Thorne is chaperoning." "You're up to something," Nona Elena said, her eyes sharp. "I can see it behind your eyes." "I'm going to fix a mistake," Elara said, which was the truth. Her grandmother studied her face for a long moment. "Just be safe, Mija. This world is not always gentle with girls who know their own value." "I know," Elara whispered. "That's why I have to change it." The Apex Innovation Gala hummed with an electric sense of self-importance. Tech moguls, venture capitalists, and media influencers filled the grand hall. Security was formidable. Elara's bag was scanned twice, though Cassandra's true purpose remained cloaked beneath its innocuous exterior. "Nervous?" Dr. Thorne asked, as they took their assigned seats. "Terrified," Elara confessed. "Good," Dr. Thorne replied. "Fear can be a useful tool." Sterling Blackwood took the stage to a wave of adulation, his charisma radiating through the room. Holographic cameras orbited him as he welcomed the finalists and distinguished guests. "Tonight, we celebrate the future," he boomed. "Young innovators who are pushing the boundaries of what is possible." The hypocrisy was so thick, Elara felt she could choke on it. As Blackwood spoke, Elara surreptitiously activated Cassandra. The device found the venue's network, slipping through firewalls like a ghost and finding a pathway into the presentation mainframe. Within moments, Blackwood's teleprompter script had been quietly copied, archived, and replaced. "Finalist number 9, Lara Vance," the MC's voice resonated through the hall. Elara stood, took a deep breath, and walked toward the stage, Cassandra in her hand. As she passed Blackwood, she saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes, quickly suppressed by confusion. He knew the face, but couldn't place the name. Not yet. As Elara took her place in the center of the stage, smiling warmly at the holographic cameras, he had no idea that the algorithm currently controlling his teleprompter had been written by the very girl he had publicly shamed. "From the Oak Hill Future Forward Academy," the MC's voice boomed, "presenting predictive health care for equitable outcomes." Elara stepped into the bright, warm spotlight, Cassandra held firmly in her hands. The device's cool metal felt like a talisman of vindication. 500 audience members, 7 judges, and 1 Sterling Blackwood watched as she placed her creation on the illuminated podium. "Thank you for this incredible honor," she began, her voice unwavering despite the frantic drumming in her chest. "My project confronts one of the most urgent issues in modern AI, algorithmic bias." In the front row, Blackwood's relaxed posture tightened. His eyes narrowed, studying her face with a newfound intensity. "Machine learning systems are not objective," Elara continued. "They are mirrors, reflecting the conscious and unconscious biases of their human creators. When these biased systems are empowered to make life-or-death healthcare decisions, they become weapons. A sudden understanding flared in Blackwood's eyes. He leaned over, whispering frantically to an aide. At the back of the hall, security personnel began to move, but it was already too late. My system, Cassandra, is designed to identify and correct these discriminatory patterns, Ilara explained, activating the device. To demonstrate, I've used it to analyze a prominent new healthcare model that is currently being deployed across the nation. The immense holographic screen behind her erupted with data. Intricate decision trees, financial risk assessments, patient outcomes, all drawn directly from Blackwood's own servers. This is proprietary data, Blackwood snapped, rising from his seat. Security! Is it proprietary? Ilara asked, her voice clear and innocent. Or is it stolen? A wave of murmurs swept through the audience as cameras swiveled between them. I have prepared 5 test cases, Ilara said, as the security guards neared the stage. 5 identical patient profiles with only one variable altered, their home zip code. The screen shifted, displaying the profiles side by side, identical ages, biometrics, and medical histories, but with different addresses. Cassandra, run the simulation, Ilara commanded. The device processed the data instantly, the results appearing on the screen in stark, undeniable graphics. 5 identical medical profiles, 5 drastically different courses of recommended treatment. As you can clearly see, Ilara said, gesturing to the damning data, patients from lower-income districts are consistently recommended less effective, lower-cost treatments, or are denied care altogether, despite having the exact same medical needs. This presentation is over, Blackwood barked, now on the stage beside her. This young woman has no grasp of the complex analytics involved in… Actually, Ilara interjected, I grasp them well enough to have authored the core predictive algorithm your entire system is built upon. She tapped Cassandra's screen. A new image appeared. A side-by-side comparison of 2 blocks of code. Her original algorithm submitted to the science fair next to the core of Blackwood's proprietary code. They're identical, she said simply. Because you stole my work. The audience gasped. Cameras zoomed in on the damning proof. Absurd, Blackwood scoffed. This is obviously a coordinated publicity stunt. Is it? Ilara pressed a button on Cassandra. Perhaps you should consult your teleprompter for your prepared remarks. Blackwood spun toward the teleprompter, ready to dismiss her. His face went ashen as he read the words scrolling across the screen. We at Blackwood Dynamics acknowledge the unauthorized acquisition of intellectual property from emerging innovators, including Algorithm C77, developed by Ilara Moreno, age 13, of Detroit. He stopped reading, his face a mask of horror, but the damage was done. The first few rows had clearly seen the text. Datapads and phones were raised. Recording. You're Ilara Moreno, he breathed, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. From the Innovation Fair. Yes, she confirmed. The girl whose certificate you ripped in half on a global broadcast. The fraud you accused of plagiarism while your company was actively stealing from her. Security finally reached the stage but faltered, caught in the glare of 100 cameras, unsure how to proceed. This entire demonstration is terminated, Blackwood announced, lunging for Cassandra. Don't touch that, Ilara warned, her voice dropping, unless you want to trigger a system-wide crash. It was a bluff, but a convincing one. Blackwood froze. Cassandra, continue demonstration, Ilara commanded. The device projected new data onto the screen, a series of internal Blackwood Dynamics memos discussing cost containment strategies and efficiency algorithms. These documents, Ilara explained, show the deliberate programming of bias. patients from certain districts, predominantly poor and minority communities, are automatically assigned lower viability scores. "You have illegally accessed our confidential servers," Blackwood sputtered. "This is corporate espionage." "No," a new voice cut through the tension. Dr. Anya Sharma strode purposefully down the center aisle. "It's whistleblowing." She reached the stage, a commanding presence in a simple business suit. "I am Dr. Anya Sharma, the former Chief Ethics Officer for Blackwood Dynamics. I can personally attest to the authenticity of those documents." The audience buzzed, the excitement palpable. This was no longer a student competition. It was a corporate takedown. Dr. Sharma was terminated after she raised ethical flags about this very program, Elara told the crowd. "The evidence she gathered proves both the theft of my algorithm and its subsequent weaponization against the most vulnerable members of society, including my own grandmother," Elara added, her voice cracking for the first time, "who was denied a life-saving treatment just last week because your algorithm decided that people from her zip code are not a good return on investment." Blackwood tried to seize control. "These are complex systems designed to allocate limited. They are discriminatory systems designed to protect profits," Dr. Sharma interrupted. "And they are built on the stolen genius of a child." Blackwood lunged for the main power cable connecting the podium to the stage's system. "This ends now!" "Actually," Elara smiled faintly, "it's just getting started." As Blackwood ripped the plug from its socket, every screen in the auditorium, the main display, the judges' tablets, the digital banners in the lobby, flickered and then lit up with the same damning evidence. Backup systems, activated by Giulia Rossi, who was now live-streaming the entire event to a global audience. "You can't silence the truth by pulling the plug," Elara said. Blackwood spun to leave the stage, but his feet wouldn't move. He was stuck fast. His $1,000 Italian leather shoes were firmly bonded to the floor, trapped by a small, nearly invisible puddle of Elara's homemade rapid-drying adhesive, strategically applied before her presentation. The audience, after a beat of stunned silence, erupted in laughter as the mighty CEO tugged and twisted, helplessly stuck. "What is this?" he demanded, his face turning a shade of crimson that clashed with his expensive suit. "A simple polymer adhesive," Elara explained innocently. "I developed it in my kitchen. Would you like to steal the formula for that too?" The laughter grew louder. Sterling Blackwood's public vivisection was being broadcast in real time across every social media platform on the planet. "You have made a grave mistake," he seethed under his breath. "My legal team will what?" Giulia Rossi appeared beside Dr. Sharma, her press badge held high. "Sue a 13-year-old for exposing corporate malfeasance and systemic discrimination? Go ahead. That's the headline for tomorrow's story." "Who are you?" he demanded. "Giulia Rossi, Detroit Free Press," she said. "We're running a multi-part investigative series on algorithmic bias in healthcare, featuring Dr. Sharma's testimony and Ms. Moreno's evidence." She gave him a bright, professional smile. "Would you care to make a statement?" As security guards finally managed to pry Blackwood's shoes free from the adhesive, leaving him standing in his socks, the gala judges huddled in a panicked conference. The head judge approached the microphone. "In light of these unprecedented developments, we are officially suspending this evening's competition pending a full investigation." "That won't be necessary," Elara said, still clutching Cassandra. "I didn't come here to win your award. I came for justice." She turned to face the audience, her voice ringing with passion. "This device was built to save lives. All lives. Regardless of their zip code, their income, or the color of their skin. That is the kind of innovation we should be celebrating." The auditorium exploded in applause. It started hesitantly, then swelled into a thunderous standing ovation. The room fell silent as Sterling Blackwood, for the first time in his professional life, was utterly speechless, while a 13-year-old girl from Detroit had just given the world a voice. The climax isn't just a technical takedown. It's a piece of public theater. Ilara doesn't just present data. She humiliates her adversary. Is this public shaming a necessary tool for justice against the powerful, or does it risk becoming a form of mob justice itself? Blackwood Dynamics stock plummets 32% amid ethics scandal, screamed the financial news headlines 3 days later. Ilara laid the datapad on the small table in Nona Elena's hospital room, watching as her grandmother's eyes went wide. "So this was the mistake you were fixing," Nona Elena whispered, her fingers tracing the holographic image of Ilara on stage. "I couldn't tell you," Ilara explained. "You'd have been too worried." "Worried?" Her grandmother's voice was incredulous. "Mija, I'm petrified. You went to war with a billionaire who has more lawyers than we own dishes." "But we won," Ilara said softly. "Did we?" Nona Elena gestured weakly at her surroundings, the sterile hospital room they couldn't afford, the incessant beeping of the monitor, the life-saving procedure that was still denied. A polite knock on the doorframe interrupted them. Julia Rossi entered, a datapad in her hand. "Good morning, Mrs. Moreno," she greeted the older woman. "I'm Julia, a friend of your remarkable granddaughter." "The journalist," Nona Elena said with a note of caution. "Yes, ma'am, and I have some news." Julia handed her the datapad. Displayed on the screen was an official communication from the hospital administration. "Your procedure has been approved," it read. "To be covered in full." "How?" Nona Elena breathed. "Public pressure is a powerful disinfectant," Julia explained. "After our story went global, the insurance provider miraculously discovered an algorithmic error in their system." Tears streamed down Nona Elena's face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me," Julia said, nodding toward Ilara. "Thank your granddaughter. She didn't just change your outcome. She's changing the whole system." Outside the hospital, a firestorm raged. Blackwood Dynamics was facing a deluge of investigations from government regulators, ethics committees, and financial oversight bodies. Former employees emerged from the woodwork with stories corroborating Dr. Sharma's claims of discriminatory practices and intellectual property theft. Class action lawsuits were materializing overnight. In the center of this hurricane, Ilara found a strange sense of peace. The truth was public. The machine was exposed. Now the fallout would have to be dealt with. "You're trending again," Dr. Thorne remarked, showing Ilara her phone during their now daily session at the archives. The hashtag #ChutIlaraExposedTheTruth was a global phenomenon, filled with personal stories of algorithmic discrimination from every corner of the world. "It's about more than just me now," Ilara observed. "It always was," Dr. Thorne replied. "You simply gave the issue a face and a voice." The hospital corridor felt different today. The air was thick with hope instead of fear. The scent of her grandmother's favorite lilac lotion hung in the air as Ilara entered room 61B, clutching an official-looking envelope. "What's that?" Nona Elena asked. She was sitting up in bed, her color already better, her voice stronger. The procedure was now scheduled for the next morning. "It's an acceptance letter," Ilara said, placing it in her grandmother's hand. "A real one." The board of the Apex Innovation Gala had reconvened. In an unprecedented move, Despite, or perhaps because of, the scandal, they had unanimously awarded Ilara first prize. The letter included a full scholarship to the prestigious National Institute of Science and a grant large enough to pay their back rent for the next 5 years. "Mija," Nona Elena whispered, her voice thick with pride and tears. Their quiet moment was broken by a commotion from down the hall. Security officers streamed past the door, followed by a phalanx of people in dark suits carrying cameras. "What now?" Nona Elena sighed wearily. Julia appeared in the doorway, looking slightly breathless. "He's here," she announced. "Who?" "Blackwood. He's giving a press conference in the main lobby." Ilara went still. "About me?" "About everything. You need to see this." From the atrium balcony on the 2nd floor, they watched as Sterling Blackwood, looking diminished and haggard, approached a thicket of microphones. His lawyer stood beside him, his expression grim. "I appear before you today," Blackwood began, his voice stripped of its usual booming confidence, "to address the recent allegations concerning the Blackwood Dynamics Civic Health Initiative." He cleared his throat, his eyes flicking to his lawyer, who gave a barely perceptible nod. "After conducting a swift and thorough internal investigation, we have determined that our system did, in fact, contain certain problematic decision-making metrics that may have resulted in disparate outcomes for certain populations." The carefully crafted non-apology was met with a skeptical silence. "Furthermore," he continued, the words tasting like poison in his mouth, "we acknowledge that key elements of our core algorithm bear a significant and regrettable similarity to innovative work developed independently by Ms. Ilara Moreno." A reporter yelled, "Are you admitting that you stole a child's invention?" Blackwood's jaw clenched. "We are admitting to a severe lapse in our acquisitions and verification process." Another journalist shouted, "Will you offer a direct apology to Ilara Moreno?" The lobby fell silent. Cameras panned the area, searching for her. Someone pointed up toward the balcony. Suddenly, every eye in the room was on her. Ilara stood motionless as Sterling Blackwood looked up, their gazes locking across the atrium. For one profound moment, the universe had inverted. The billionaire was looking up at the child he had tried to erase. "Ms. Moreno," he said, the name stiff and unfamiliar on his tongue, "I wish to offer my most sincere apologies for the manner in which you were treated at the Innovation Fair, and for any misappropriation of your intellectual contributions." The words were clearly excruciating for him, pried from his throat by lawyers and catastrophic publicity, not genuine remorse. "Apology accepted," Ilara called down, her voice clear and carrying through the hushed lobby. "But I'm far more interested in what you plan to do next." "We are forming a permanent ethics oversight board to review all algorithmic decisions," Blackwood offered, "and establishing a significant innovation fund for under-resourced communities." "And my grandmother's treatment?" Ilara pressed. "And the treatments of everyone else your algorithm denied?" Blackwood's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. "All cases that were flagged by the system are being manually reviewed," Blackwood announced. "All treatment decisions will be reassessed based on medical need alone." It wasn't total justice, but it was a start. As cameras flashed all around her, Ilara realized the most difficult part of her journey was still to come, figuring out what to do with the power to change the world, not just to embarrass the men who ran it. Blackwood offers a public apology and promises reform, but only after being completely exposed and publicly shamed. Is this forced accountability a true form of justice, or is it merely a calculated business move to save his company? Can repentance ever be real when it's not freely given? 6 months flew by in a dizzying rush. Spring painted Detroit in vibrant strokes of green, heralding a season of new life. Elara adjusted her graduation gown in the mirror of their new apartment. It wasn't a penthouse, but it was bright, secure, and the rent was paid for the next year. No more red eviction notices haunting their door. "You look so grown up," Nona Elena said from the doorway. Her recovery had been slow but steady. The treatment had worked, and her lungs grew stronger every day. "It's just a middle school graduation, Nona," Elara shrugged. "Not every middle school graduate," her grandmother countered, holding up her datapad, "makes the front page of the news." The headline read, "Detroit's Young Innovator Accepts Full Scholarship to National Science Institute." The scholarship had been one of many. Several top-tier institutions had rushed to offer Elara a place after the Blackwood scandal. She chose the one with the most rigorous ethics program and the most economically diverse student body. "Are you ready?" asked Nona Elena. She was now working part-time as a patient ombudsman for the hospital, using her experience to help others navigate the very system that had nearly failed her. "Almost," Elara replied, carefully placing Cassandra in her bag. The device had evolved. It was no longer a solitary project, but the foundation of a new public-private healthcare oversight initiative, developed in partnership with Dr. Sharma. The doorbell chimed. Dr. Thorne stood outside, resplendent in a richly colored dashiki. "Your carriage awaits," she smiled, gesturing to a self-driving car where Julia Rossi sat in the passenger seat. The journey to the Detroit Central Archives took them past streets that felt both familiar and transformed. The corner bodega, where Mrs. Kim had extended them credit, now sported a community-funded small business banner, a direct result of an economic justice initiative sparked by the exposure of the healthcare algorithm. "Anxious about your speech?" Dr. Thorne asked. "A little," Elara admitted. After her graduation ceremony, before she left for the institute, she was giving the keynote speech at the launch of a new coding boot camp at the Archives, a program for local kids from her neighborhood entirely funded by the settlement from Blackwood Dynamics. The company itself was radically different. Sterling Blackwood had been forced to resign as CEO by a shareholder revolt. The reformed executive team, now led by Dr. Anya Sharma, was committed to a new era of ethical and transparent AI. Blackwood's Civic Health Initiative had been scrapped and rebuilt from the ground up, with transparent metrics and a community oversight board. Tens of thousands of previously denied medical procedures had been reevaluated and approved. It was not a perfect world, but it was a better one. At the Archives, a small crowd was already gathered, children with bright, curious eyes, and parents with expressions of hope. These were the same families who had watched Elara grow up in the stacks, who now came to see her as a harbinger of a new future. "Look at them all," Julia whispered, her camera discreetly documenting the scene for her ongoing series on algorithmic justice. Her reporting had won a national award, shining a much-needed spotlight on the hidden injustices of the digital age. Elara looked out at the makeshift classroom, at the rows of new laptops donated by tech companies suddenly eager to burnish their reputations. The curriculum had been developed with Dr. Thorne, who now served as the director of the Archive's newly expanded STEM education program. "Welcome to Code for Justice," Elara began, her confidence building with every word. "Today, we're going to talk about how machines learn and how we can teach them to be fair." Dozens of small hands shot into the air, a wave of questions bubbling up. Elara answered each one with patience and care, seeing in them her own insatiable curiosity, her own desperate hunger to understand. During a short break, she stepped outside. The warm spring sun fell on her face as she contemplated the path ahead. The Institute, new discoveries, a future that had once been unimaginable. Her comlink chimed. A message from Dr. Sharma. Cassandra's public health monitoring system just received approval for a national pilot program. You really changed the game, Ilara. Change. That was what this had always been about. Not simple revenge against one powerful man, but the fundamental transformation of the systems that created and protected men like him, while dismissing girls like her. Back inside, the children were waiting, their screens open to their first lines of code. They looked at her with a mixture of trust and awe. The girl from their neighborhood who had fought a giant and won. But she knew the victory wasn't in Blackwood's Fall. It was here, in this room, in the infinite possibilities now unfolding for these children, who might never have to fight so hard just to be seen. As she looked out at the sea of eager faces, Ilara smiled, understanding with a profound clarity that the true power wasn't in the algorithm itself, but in who gets to write the code.